to the end of the panel. This has been an amazing journey, seeing Sikholars grow. And next year's our 10th year, as Gurjeet mentioned, and so I really want everybody to block it in your calendars now. It's going to be huge. We're hopefully going to get UC Berkeley on board, their their Institute for South Asian Studies, continue the support of UC Santa Cruz and Stanford, and get back to having a 2-day forum where we also have a banquet and a keynote speech. So I really encourage everybody to mark it in your calendars now, because it's going to be a really fun and fantastic time. The talk that I'm going to present to you guys today is called Governing the Grain Heap, Bureaucracy, Welfare, and Social Inclusion in Contemporary Punjab. This research is based on my dissertation fieldwork, which I conducted over the course of 2.5 years in Punjab. I'm in the anthropology department here at Stanford, and fieldwork is a crucial part of how we collect data and analyze it and make our arguments about the social. Okay. ਇਹ ਮੇਰੀ ਤੀਜੀ ਦਰਖਾਸਤ ਹੈ ਵੱਡੇ ਅਕਾਲੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਮੇਦਾਰਾਂ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਆ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਮਰਦੇ ਆ ਬਾਰ-ਬਾਰ ਚੱਕਰ ਮਾਰ ਕੇ. This was said to me by a woman in a government office as she tried to apply for welfare. And I'll return to this quote in a minute. I just want to make a note. This is a friend of mine. His name is Randeep Madoke. He's a Dalit himself and is making a really excellent film on landless people, or Benjamin people, scheduled caste people in Punjab. And these are the kinds of people that we sort of imagine that don't have identity in India. They have no form of like a birth certificate or something like that. And so the government project I'm talking about today tries to fix this problem. So more than 1 billion people in India have enrolled in the Aadhaar card program. This program was launched in 2009 by the Congress government as an identification card based on the scan of one's fingerprints and their iris, with the stated intent of giving identification to millions in India who don't have it, and giving the government a master database of its residents. After winning the 2014 Lok Sabha elections, the BJP has mobilized Aadhaar as a centerpiece of its Digital India program, blending the hyper-aggressive nationalism of Narendra Modi with the technological promise of the country's most inclusive, ambitious, and costly program. The narrative of Aadhaar has also shifted over time, from a tool of enumeration to a technology to battle corruption, increase efficiency, and improve transparency, central to the themes of the BJP's 2014 electoral campaign. And this is sort of what an Aadhaar card looks like. It has your picture on it, your name, your address, date of birth. In his analysis of the Indian state, Thomas Hansen theorizes of an Indian anti-politics that rejects the everyday and social as already profane and corrupt, and yearns for organization and rationalization through technology and good governance. That is, although one might have to pay a bribe for a land record or have to give a cut of a government loan to the employee who is managing your paperwork, there is a redemptive facet of the state. That somehow, sometime, justice will be served and one will get their due through better governance. This is evinced by individuals turning up again and again to submit applications to different departments or writing letters to the Prime Minister seeking relief. Aadhaar fits this idea that by having a clean database of all individuals, the rough and tumble negotiations that citizens will have to go through, that is, the already corrupt social, will be eliminated through a high-tech intervention that is sublime. I take this framing of anti-politics to discuss the Punjab's experience with the implementation of Aadhaar, focusing on welfare distribution to demonstrate the social struggle and complexity around mobilizing Aadhaar to generate a clean database by which supposedly streamlined welfare distribution can occur. Said data is used by the government in courts, in parliamentary sessions, and on the world stage to note the number of fake and duplicate welfare recipients that have been removed from the system and the huge savings that the Aadhaar card program has generated for the state. I argue that this actually occludes the ongoing mediations of state-citizen relationship, that is, the social, that Aadhaar was supposed to dissolve. We see how local political struggles, that is, electoral democracy and party-bazi, are pitted against the global idea of striving for improvement in the delivery of government services in a developing country, amplified by the current government's promotion of Aadhaar's success. I call this section the magic bureaucrat. Nestled amidst the posh mansions of Chandigarh's political, bureaucratic, and economic elite lies Sukhna Lake, the city architect Le Corbusier's gift to the citizens of the city and a popular place to walk and run. On a December morning in 2011, Simran, a mid-career Punjab civil services officer, was stopped by the Punjab's Minister of Food. The minister had a proposal for Simran. When Simran will be done with his master's in public policy at an elite American university, would he like to be the primary officer involved with the Aadhaar implementation in Punjab? Simran did join the department in fall 2012, and this is it. It's a new building. The old building was trash. And so everyone was really happy to move into this one. Simran joined the department in fall of 2012, and in the summer of 13, I found his information online, and through Facebook, a mutual friend from the US put us in touch, which was Malika, who you guys probably know. Within a half an hour, Simran appeared at the coffee shop nearest to my apartment, energetically explaining to me the future potential of Aadhaar with a slick PowerPoint in hand, demonstrating how by using Aadhaar as a central database for the residents of the state, the government could not only provide better services more efficiently, but it could also generate relevant policy. That is, you could extract data and then make policy that's more relevant to the populations that you have. It is widely recognized by bureaucrats, IT consultants, and private operators that this success was largely Simran's sole responsibility. As Weber would have it, it was his charismatic authority and the presence he mobilized to get work done, rather than the legal authority he had as an officer to make the project move. Simran was an effective marketer and believer of Aadhaar, combining his deep knowledge of policy from the United States, his professional and personal experience in rural and urban Punjab, and the technocratic promise of the system to convince stakeholders, public and private, to enroll as many people as quickly as possible. And this is just funny. For the new year, they brought the Guru Granth Sahib, and we had Path in the department. So no separation of church and state there. In 2006, before the Vidhan Sabha elections, the Akali Dal made a poll promise to provide subsidized atta and dal to the poor of the state in a program called the Atta Dal Scheme. The Akalis won, and individuals who were deemed to be below the poverty line were brought into the system. The maintenance of this program and its expansion was seen as central to the Akalis' re-election in 2012, and the program, although now funded by the central government, still operates and bears the same name. Every 6 months in Punjab, a beneficiary goes to their local ration shop dealer, who is contracted out by the government, and pays 2 rupees per kilogram for 30 kilograms of wheat. Registration into the program and the occasional re-verification for eligibility by government employees is done by government employees and the sarpanch of the pind, which is like the mayor, you could say. To be eligible as per criteria set by the government, a family should not have more than 2.5 acres of land, earn about $1,000 annually, 60,000 rupees, have a government employee in the house or a pensioner, and not have certain amenities like an air conditioner or four-wheeler car. If you have these things, you're not allowed to be in the system. You're deemed ineligible. Welfare distribution in India has been, and this is what a body of wheat looks like. This is 30 kilograms of wheat. Welfare distribution in India has been infamously evaluated as mismanaged, leaky, and corrupt. Shop owners deny wheat to beneficiaries, give them substandard quality wheat. Local politicians connive with food department employees to sell the wheat. Eligible individuals are excluded. Ineligible people are included. The central government mandated that digitizing all records and linking the beneficiary to their Aadhaar card would be a significant step in increasing transparency, efficiency, and accountability. When I began fieldwork with Simran in his office and his team of 6 computer software engineers from the consultancy company Accenture, the team was managing the huge task of enrolling all 30 million people living in Punjab in the Aadhaar system and computerizing the records of the 15 million people in the Atta Dal scheme, that is half the state. They're trying to make a clean database, and one food officer said that, when it was on paper, it was all garbage. We really didn't know what was going on in the field at the central offices, or even at the district level offices. And this brought a level of immediacy and transparency that they really, really were happy to have. Over time, all of the records of the Atta Dal scheme were typed up and put through this database, and through this exercise, approximately 20% of the beneficiaries in the program were deleted. I mean, I'm a food department employee, I look at the system, and there's 2 Ashveers right there because it's alphabetically ordered finally. I can cut one of those Ashveers out. Now it was lists from the computerized database rather than written record that was the basis for inclusion. The department released orders that if one's ration card, which is the ID card you have specific to the system, was not in the database, then you were not eligible for ration. That is, it was the database now rather than the paper cards that a person might have in possession that mattered. Important to note as well is that whatever wheat remained at the end of the distribution cycle was quickly accounted for and sold on the open market by shopkeepers. In the Punjab, the time of distribution is also a time when beneficiaries update their ration cards as children are born, people die, daughters marry and leave. As such, during the next round of distribution after that initial digitization, food department employees collected photocopies of people's Aadhaar cards and entered their Aadhaar number into the system. This is a picture of a ration shop, so usually people will line up and get it from here. And you'll notice, funnily, this guy's quite entrepreneurial. This is his ration shop on to the left, and he's got an atta chakki right next door. So you don't get actual atta, you actually get wheat, and then you have to mill it, and so he's got a mill next door. So when one of the things that happen is when you link somebody's Aadhaar, this is distribution happening. You'll see people are lining up. They've already paid, and now they're getting it. And so here's what happens, is you update a ration card by taking somebody's Aadhaar information and writing it down. And this was done in a really haphazard way. You'd actually would photocopy the card, and so what would happen is I'm a food department employee, I go to a bin and say, okay, everybody give me your Aadhaar cards. A lot of times things wouldn't be collated, right? So I might have a ration card with like one family's Aadhaar cards next to it, and then the next one might have some more people from there. And so what would end up happening is food department employees would get really stressed out, or be lazy, or just be negligent, and would just randomly write people's Aadhaar numbers and type them into the system. So what was happening is that even though the Aadhaar card was supposed to be this sort of golden tool for governance, my Aadhaar number might be linked to somebody else's because the food department employee was negligent. In one village I worked in, one Aadhaar number had been copy pasted to 30 different people. Sorry, I just lost myself in my paper, excuse me. This sort of partial usage of the Aadhaar number, that is using the number itself without actually biometrically authenticating people, is a common practice across states in India despite the pitfalls. And I'm sure you can imagine why. Technology is expensive, there isn't internet everywhere, there isn't electricity everywhere, and the government doesn't have the capacity to have these biometric cards or screening machines all over the place. 6 months ago, Punjab pushed past 95% authentication with Aadhaar. Linking 95% of people in the Aadhaar scheme. 95% is deemed as a satisfactory number by the central government, since 5% are considered to be problematic populations for the Aadhaar system. The elderly, the infirm, children, manual laborers whose fingerprints do not register in the system, and it's an enormous problem for the working poor in India. In the state discourse around Aadhaar, achieving 100% linkage and the elimination of ghost and duplicate beneficiaries is only a halfway point. The finish line and the logical conclusion of Aadhaar is to verify the welfare recipient's identity through the point of sale machine with the live fingerprint scan. It's occurring in some states and is currently being piloted in Punjab. So this next section I call the benevolent Baba and the obedient daughter. Yeah, and this is what would happen. Like you'd just have, like this guy's responsible for updating the Aadhaar of 1,000 people, and the government will give him a short deadline in which he can't possibly accomplish it. So you usually grab friends or pay people to help you. In her excellent analysis of the welfare distribution system in India, Ritika Khera outlines 3 major sources of corruption: identity fraud, which Aadhaar can help us with; quantity or quality fraud, that is, I'm the shopkeeper and I give you less than what you deserve, or I give you bad quality wheat, which Aadhaar cannot help us with; and the third is eligibility fraud, that is, people who deserve to be in the system are not, and people who do not deserve to be in the system are put in. So somebody with a car, for example, let's say, being in the welfare distribution system. While Khera calls this eligibility fraud, a deputy commissioner in Punjab explained to me that it was in fact democracy, adding, Ashveer, we in India take democracy too seriously. Here the DC gestures towards the primary critique that individuals have of the Aadhaar scheme in Punjab. The program is a worthy enterprise of the state, but it does not reach the right people. And I will now demonstrate how Aadhaar linkage occludes the social and political facets of welfare distribution. Aman is a relatively new Punjab Civil Services officer, and in 2016 she had served for 2 years as a sub-divisional magistrate. Despite significant pressures from many politically connected stakeholders, she had earned a reputation for being honest and no-nonsense. For the bulk of my research period, Aman's primary political boss was a former MLA of the Akali Dal. While the former MLA had lost the election in 2012, he retained de facto political power as an Akali since the Akali party won the general elections. He was the Halka, or constituency, in charge, and Halka in charges enjoyed particular power during the 2012-2017 rule of the Akali Dal, as police lines were drawn around constituency lines, and thus local police were answerable to one leader. Aman's Halka in charge had a reputation for being a fair man, treating requests from people in his constituency with less regard for whether they were Akali, Congressi, or supporters of the AAP. On mornings and evenings, people came to his home asking for 2 well connections, to his signature to verify their address for Aadhaar enrollment, recommendations for admissions in colleges, or asking him to ward off a vigilance investigation accusing a government employee of corruption. The Halka in charge's public word did the double duty of shorting up his and his party's political legitimacy so that people felt like the Akalis were working for them, and sometimes adding to his retirement fund. He called Aman at least thrice before lunch and thrice afterwards, but never after working hours. He explained to me that Aman was a young mother after all, and he wasn't one of those politicians waking their bureaucrats up at all hours of the night. Whenever I was with the Halka in charge and he called her, he always addressed her as his beti. Aman and I joked that he was a benevolent Baba, never punishing her or threatening her with a transfer when she refused to do something that was against her conscience, something she immensely appreciated. This cultural relationship was worked most vigorously in the run-up to the 2017 Vidhan Sabha elections. In the popular imaginary, I'll skip that. The problem with the Aadhaar scheme in the popular imaginary are two. One, it makes the poor lazy. They don't want to work because they get food, and it increases Punjab's need for migrant labor from neighboring states. Second, aside from the various kinds of corruption within the system, people who are, the food goes to the wrong people. That is, those with connections to the Akalis. Indeed, the ration card carries the images of the Food and Civil Supplies Minister and Prakash Singh Badal, reminding the beneficiary exactly who is providing the subsidy. When new cards were printed in 2016 that included the seated Aadhaar numbers, a minor scandal erupted when the Chief Minister's photo was excluded. 3x3 stickers flowed out of a printing press in Chandigarh out to the field to rectify the matter. The Akalis are the first party to win 2 terms in the history of independent Punjab, and after 9 years of rule before the 2017 elections, there was widespread hatred and acrimonious accusations of loot, strong-arming, violence, and religious desecration of the Sri Guru Granth Sahib. The Akali Dal scheme was considered a critical political tool to garner votes in such a dire situation for the party, in addition to the distribution of crockery, sports uniforms, sewing machines, and checks to villages for local development projects, and closer to the elections, the distribution of cash, chicken, and alcohol. An incumbent MLA told me, "We will make it rain atta dal in my constituency, my boy. We will show the Aam Aadmi Party." The beneficiaries that the Aadhaar team and Simran had removed through computerization and digitization, Aadhaar seeding and the cleansing of the system, and occasional rounds of re-verification of beneficiaries meant that Punjab could add several million beneficiaries in the database before hitting their quota imposed by the central government before the elections. In the months leading up, the database was open, and each halqa in charge was given a certain number of beneficiaries that they could add in their constituencies, about 5,000 people. Politicians made announcements at political rallies for people to enroll, and families who would, there's 116 constituencies in Punjab, so there's 116 of these halqa in charges. So this was going on in 116 different places. Politicians made announcements at political rallies for people to enroll, and families who had not received welfare before scrambled to politically connected people in their social networks to demonstrate their loyalty to their party, their need, or their willingness to switch political alliances. For the next month, there was a semi-choreographed frenzy of coordination between the halqa in charge and his party workers to identify individuals who had been left out of the system, and government employees verifying the eligibility of individuals. Across the Punjab, the process went something like this. An applicant filled out a form and attached a copy of their Aadhaar cards, and shop owners collected the documents to hand over for verification after significant signature of the sarpanch. Government employees in different departments verified eligibility by checking land holdings, the revenue records, and income status door to door. The work was tedious in the revenue department, and Patwaris preferred to call their known contacts in the PIN to confirm eligibility. In the sweltering heat of August, going door to door to check if someone had a car and AC was undesirable, to say the least, and few bothered actually going to the field. Both sets of officers knew that they were primarily receiving applications that had been vetted by the halqa in charge or his party workers, and that to deny an application might invite retribution, despite that the bulk of the applications were coming from families that did not qualify under specified guidelines. This gets to a critical feature of development programming in India that cannot be overcome by a technical intervention like the Aadhaar card, that is, the inclusion or exclusion fraud, because it is politically motivated. In Punjab, and especially in rural settings, access to state resources like the Aadhaar scheme are intimately linked to what is referred to as partibazi, or what Joyce Pettigrew and other anthropologists call factionalism. Each village is comprised of 2 parties that generally map onto Akali or Congressy, and the intensity of factionalism can vary. You might say hello to someone from the opposing party. In other cases, you might not sign a form for your neighbor into the Aadhaar scheme, even if they are starving. With the linking of many government programs to the Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, to grants for building toilets, to Panchayati Raj institutions, that is, to electoral politics, people are routinely denied access to government resources because they belong to the wrong political party, since oftentimes one needs the signature of the sarpanch who is locally elected. This kind of corruption, this sociality of public policy, is immune from the Aadhaar card system. After applications from the Aadhaar card system were verified, stacks of papers from villages with cover pages listing new beneficiaries were sent to the halqa in charge's house for checking, ensuring that new cards are being made for potential voters only. From the halqa in charge's home, the forms went to the subdivisional magistrate Aman, who finally signed off the forms. They were printed, weight was distributed, and the Akalis lost the election horribly. I'm running out of time, so I'll wrap up just by saying that that woman who I was talking about in the beginning of the talk, she is one of these sort of aggrieved people who have to come again and again to a government office to try and get their work done, because at the local level, they're oppressed by electoral politics and democracy in India. And I will, however, take a couple of minutes to wrap up. From its inception, the promise of Aadhaar was an unmediated relationship between the citizen and the state, reducing corruption and increasing efficiency. What this occludes, however, is the fragmented nature of sovereignty in the Indian state and the ways in which society and the state are blurred in practice, such that bureaucratic procedure only will not necessarily provide a citizen with the necessary service they require. I have demonstrated here how the Aadhaar scheme in Punjab, especially in the run-up to the election, the process of being included is determined by one's perceived voting behavior by local party workers or fixers, rather than one's relative poverty. This inclusion fraud is a direct consequence of democratic practice. At best, the Aadhaar links a number in the registry to an individual in the database. Once they are entered with their Aadhaar number, they are deemed to be eligible. Aadhaar is a slow-moving spectacle of the state. Aadhaar is a slow-moving spectacle of the state, reasserting the ubiquity of the state every time someone must produce its photocopy or produce the number. Its long life, ubiquity, and repeatedly clunky implementation excavates it of the techno-utopian fantasies for bureaucrats like Simran and politicians like Modi. The sublime or the redemptive aspect of the state is in the imagined future for my informants, where someday a criminal might be caught by leaving a fingerprint, or a long form might be pre-populated with a thumbprint. For politicians and bureaucrats writing and representing on the world stage, Aadhaar is the prime method that reconciles India's socialist policy with the lure of mass consumerism and India's IT expertise. It is a hat trick, enticing capital through the potentiality of every Indian as a consumer or a producer of flippable marketing data, while being able to bracket poverty and deprivation through Aadhaar as a panacea for corruption of the everyday social. That social, I will argue, is Indian democracy itself, where the Halka in charge must demonstrate his ability to control the bureaucracy and polity, to maintain his dominance and electoral success. And since access to welfare programs like the Aadhaar scheme is mediated by them, Aadhaar only adds another layer of complexity to the state-citizen encounter rather than purging the sociality inherent in it. Thank you very much.